All right, welcome to the second ATH Hive podcast. I'm David Starcer here today, sitting down with Nate Timmons of Denver Stiffs, the Denver Nuggets SB Nation site. Nate, thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, what's up, Dave? It's kind of weird. I didn't know the Hornets writer was located in Boulder. That's
yeah, cool. We're spread out. We got a guy in San Antonio, got a guy out in LA, so we're all over the place. A guy in the Philippines, so we're representing everywhere. But yeah, it's good. Get to go to the game today, being a Denver guy. Get to go see the Hornets play in Denver, and I don't know. Hopefully, it's a good one. I know recently the Hornets have given Denver trouble. They won both games last year. I was reading the preview of the game on your guys' site, and I forgot about that. I went to the game last year that the Hornets won, and Denver has a little bit of trouble with New Orleans generally. I don't know if that'll be the same this year with obviously different teams on both sides, but do you have a take on that? Why New Orleans and Denver, or Denver has a little trouble with these guys?
Well, there's kind of been something, I think, just with the Nuggets having trouble with, focusing on all their games and focusing on, kind of, if you look at the Hornets, I don't want to say this season's the same, but last year they're kind of the team where Denver was expected to beat them.
Right.
The Nuggets kind of had problems with teams like that. And New Orleans, is a team that last year, and I think maybe as well as this year, they play hard all the time. So it's something that if you come in and you're not ready for them, they can easily take you out.
That's a good point. Denver added a couple guys maybe this year to try and help them with that. I know Iguodala is one of those guys counted on to be the team leader. Kind of struggled a little bit out of the gate. I don't know what your opinion is, and the whole kind of Nuggets nation. I don't want to say they expected him to be the guy offensively, but maybe they expected him to be kind of a player that he's not. What are your expectations for Iguodala, I guess, this season, or how do you think he's performed so far?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people that think that he should come in and average 20 points and be this, and he's never done that in his career. I think right after Iverson left when he did up his scoring average, but he's just not that kind of player, and people have to appreciate the other aspects of his game. Obviously, everybody knows he's a good defender, but I think he's proven to be a better rebounder here than I ever thought he was, and he's a great defensive rebounder. There's been a lot of times where the Nuggets will give up extra possessions on rebounds that go out to like the free throw line, and he's kind of been cleaning all that up. So as long as he's putting up, I think about 15 points a game and doing what he does, I think Denver has that should be his expectation, I should say.
They've looked a lot better of lately. I know, obviously, with any new team, the Lakers are a prime example of that. When you got a bunch of new guys, it might take a little bit while for the team to gel. But the Nuggets have had some good wins recently. That Golden State overtime win, they just went and beat Minnesota. What are the differences, in your opinion, that you've seen from this team just recently, the last week or two or so?
I think the defense is starting to pick up quite a bit. They're missing George Carlson talked a lot about their poor pick and roll defense. And that's gotten a little bit better, as well as just the rotations and actually just the overall team rebounding as well is starting to be solidified. But also offensively, they're starting to kind of get the hang of this dribble drive offense, which has been around it was around a little bit last season, but I think with the new faces here and missing guys like Al Harrington and Aaron Aflalo, the offense has taken a little bit of a step back, but looking better now.
I was just going to say, I was a guy who's in favor of that trade, the Iguodala trade, giving up Aflalo and Harrington. I like Aflalo, don't think he was worth what he got paid, and then Al, I don't know, I've never been a big Al Harrington guy, but one knock of the trade was that, was that going to hurt Denver's spacing and their ability to shoot, like you said, when guys like Iggy or Lawson kind of penetrate, get in the lane, and kick out, especially if like somebody like Gallo is cold, which he's had some cold nights so far this year. Do you see that continuing to be a problem? Do you see that being a problem tonight against the New Orleans team who's top 10, I would say, defensively in the league?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit it on the head there. It's been another problem with Denver is you guys having off nights, and especially a lot of people point at Ty Lawson having inconsistent nights. Mm-hmm. And Danilo's been a little bit more consistent lately. He's looking a little bit better, I think, because he's actually getting to the rim. So I think that's helping Denver out quite a bit with him actually, creating some free throw attempts for himself and some easier shots than just hoisting up threes and long twos.
Yeah.
But New Orleans is pretty scary defensively as well. I'm pretty since I'm going to the game, I'm not very happy that Anthony Davis isn't going to be there.
Right, I was just going to ask you.
that'll help Denver out a little bit, I guess, in some of those scenarios. But, man, I want to see him play. You don't get to see the number one pick that often, and especially when it's a legit guy like Davis.
Listen, I'm sure it's frustrating for you just from the wanting to see good guys on the other team. From a Hornets fan perspective, it's really frustrating to see him sit, miss games. And, of course, Eric Gordon's still out with the whole knee injury bit. Who else are you looking out for on the Hornets team tonight to possibly have a big game where if you're just from the Denver perspective, we need to keep an eye on this guy or these two guys?
I think there's probably three guys I'm kind of looking at. One of them being Ryan Anderson. Denver gives up a lot of open threes, so I'm not quite sure what they're going to do with him. I'm wondering if they're going to put, Danilo Gallinari on him, or if they're going to try to put Kenneth Faried on him, because Faried doesn't do that well defending out on the perimeter. So I'm kind of worried about him getting open shots. Austin Rivers, kind of the same thing. If he kind of gets hot, or the Nuggets forget about him. And then for some reason, Jason Smith. I don't know if it's because he went to CSU, he's a college kid. But he tends to play well against Denver, and he's always good for a good flagrant foul if you need one.
Oh, for sure. I gotta love the energy and I don't know what the other word, the tenacity, I guess, of Jason Smith. Like you said, maybe playing in his home state, maybe that's got something to do with it, I'm sure. He's a guy who's just a great energy player. Like, he'll come off the bench or only play 20 minutes a night, but for those 20 minutes, he's going all out. And I wonder, do you think does Denver, because like you said, Denver, some nights, it doesn't matter if it's here in the Pepsi Center or on the road, they come out lackadaisical. They just, they're a good team when they're clicking on all cylinders, but some nights they just look like they don't want to be there. Do you think this could be one of those nights that they got to watch out for a high-energy team, I guess I should say, in New Orleans?
I think that George Karl's probably reminded them that they lost to New Orleans a few times last year, and hopefully this isn't a game that they overlook because they look like they have been focusing more lately. So this isn't a game to take a step back. And, like you said, if they do, with a high-energy team like New Orleans, they could easily sneak out with a win, but hopefully Denver's paying attention.
I got to ask you about JaVale McGee, just because, living in Denver, even though I'm not the biggest Nuggets guy, I still root for the team to do well. But there always, is that guy on the team that kind of divides the fan base. And I feel like JaVale might be one of the most controversial players, definitely on this team, if not in the whole league. He gets a big contract in the offseason, but he's actually performed, at least in my opinion, really well in what I've seen him. And some nights he only gets in there for 15 minutes a game. I don't know what George is trying to do there by maybe not playing him for those extended minutes. If it's a matchup thing, if he doesn't like going too big on the inside. What's your take on JaVale so far this season?
I think it seems like everybody on Denver Stiffs likes JaVale and appreciates his game, and everybody wants him to start and play 30 minutes a night. So you're not going to find too many people not liking JaVale on Denver Stiffs. But I think for the most part with him, it's very bizarre. Like there's been people wondering about his asthma, if that's limiting his playing time at all. But when he does play, he's kind of hit or miss. He has some nights where he looks like he could be one of the best big men in the NBA. And then other nights he'll come out, get in foul trouble, take a couple ill-advised shots, and then he's kind of in the doghouse. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see tonight. I mean, he could come out and get, 15 and 10 and 3 blocks, or he could play, 15 minutes and have 8 points and 3 rebounds. You never know.
Do you? What did you think of the contract that he got? You think that's an okay and adequate deal? Do you think? I mean, I probably personally think he probably got overpaid a little bit, but how do you feel about that deal going forward for Denver?
Well, there's so many contracts now where you're getting paid based on potential.
Sure.
It seemed like that's kind of the way the NBA was going a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago or something. There's guys getting these deals where you're like, they haven't even done anything to prove that yet. So I don't know. I would have liked to have seen them maybe be able to wait on that, but there was really no way to do it. So they paid what they did, and I'm just glad it's not my money and I'm paying.
You mentioned Ryan Anderson, you mentioned Jason Smith on the Hornets as guys to look out for. Ryan Anderson actually had a great night the other night in Phoenix, a game the Hornets should have won, lost in overtime, blew a 20-point lead in that game. But Ryan Anderson had a great night. I think he had 33 points, made 8 threes. He went off. But Denver got a lot of weapons too, very deep squad. Who are you looking out for the Nuggies to do well tonight?
Well, Denver lost to Phoenix the other night, so like we said, any given night in the NBA, right?
Yeah.
Tonight it's got to be the same guys as usual. It's got to be Ty Lawson. It's got to be Iguodala. It's got to be Gallinari. Hopefully Kenneth Faried can get in there and do some damage. I don't know who's going to cover him defensively for the Hornets, so you got to look out for him there.
It's true. Anderson was probably going to get the start at power forward now that Davis is out, and Davis, by the way, is a little bit of news for Hornets fans out there, is out for at least another couple of weeks with that ankle injury, so great news, sarcastically there on the home front for New Orleans. But like I said, I feel bad for you guys. It would have been nice to see him in action tonight. I'm going to the game, so just like I said, as a fan, it would have been nice to see Anthony out there. But Anderson will probably get the biggest chunk of minutes at the 4. Anderson's a really good offensive rebounder, but not too great on the defensive end. And if Kenneth is one of those guys, God, he's fun to watch. With I don't know if there's a harder playing guy out than Kenneth. Let me ask you this: is he your favorite guy to watch out there as a Nuggets guy, or who do you like to watch out there?
For me, yeah, I mean he's the funnest guy to watch. He never stops moving. He creates all those extra possessions, and then you see him in like transition. He's calling for alley-oops all the time too. So.
And we know Denver's an up-tempo team. We know George Karl. That's one of the reasons I love George Karl. He's not afraid. He's pushing the envelope with this whole, we're going to be a run-and-gun team all the way through the regular season, through the playoffs. I'm going to try and win a championship with this style. And we saw how good that can be in that Golden State game the other night with some of those plays, Miller to McGee to Fareed. I'm curious, as the Nuggets guy here on SB Nation, do you think long-term through the season that style can be successful?
You know, I think with the way the league is, too, I mean, you look at the Thunder, they're kind of a run-and-gun type team. Miami runs and guns whenever they want. But if you look at the talent levels, I mean, obviously those guys have supreme talent over Denver, so they can afford to do that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I mean, I think if you play team basketball, why can't you win? I mean, that's kind of the way I was always brought up to play, so it seems crazy to me to think that there is a certain style to how you have to win in the NBA.
A couple more questions, then we'll get you out here, Nate, here with Nate Timmons of Denver Stiffs on the At the Hive podcast. In the preseason, this Nuggets team got a lot of love. I was one of the people out there giving them a lot of love. People saying they possibly could contend one of the top 3 teams in the conference. John Hollinger on ESPN projected them to win 60-plus games. Obviously, those expectations have been tempered a little bit, but do you think, again, I'm just asking out of curiosity, but were you one of those people who thought before the season, you know, if everything clicks, this team could win 55, 60 games, and do you think that that's still a possibility, or what was your take in, I guess, just on paper looking at this team before the season?
I definitely thought that they could be a 55-plus win team. I looked earlier, and like the most they've won in franchise history is 54. So to say 55-plus would be, you know, saying they're going to have a great year, obviously. But I did, on Denver Stiffs and local radio, I predicted the Nuggets to go to the NBA Finals. I think that was just me being a total homer there. So.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, you have to do that every once in a while.
Yeah. I don't know, what is your take on this Hornets team? I know, like you said, we talked about tonight, no Anthony Davis, no Eric Gordon. Hornets have played 3 games in 4 nights, and Denver is looking to kind of start to put things together. But where do you put the Hornets in the kind of hierarchy of the NBA going forward? Do you still think they're a ways away in the kind of retreads with Detroit and Sacramento? Do you kind of put them in one of the up-and-coming teams? Do you think they could contend for a playoff spot if everyone gets healthy? Well, where do you see New Orleans falling in there?
I really like what New Orleans has. I was pretty surprised at what they're getting out of Grievous Vasquez. I mean, he looks pretty good. I didn't know much of him. I mean, he was with Memphis, right, as the backup there.
Yeah.
So he's looking pretty good. I like what they're doing overall. I don't know what you do with Eric Gordon, though.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys just trade him somehow? I don't know, but I like what they're doing. I think they're definitely an up-and-coming team. And I think, you know, I don't think when I looked at the Western Conference, I didn't think that they're only a three-win team.
Sure.
I was kind of surprised by that. I thought that they had one more, I guess.
They had a lot of close games. Yeah, they had a lot of close games. You brought up the Eric Gordon thing, and that is actually the big thing that everyone's kind of going over is how they gave him all this money. He's got this big contract, and he's not in the court. What are you going to do with him? Because if you have a max guy on your team and you're trying to rebuild, that's going to kind of hamstring you. If you would have been put in that same situation, though, I feel like most teams would have had to have matched the deal, though. Am I right?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, as talented as he is, you got to match it. But man, injuries just look like they're going to decimate his career.
And that's why I'm hoping not to see the same thing out of Anthony Davis. So hopefully he gets back on the court here in a couple weeks. Final thoughts? You have a prediction for the game, players of the game, final score. What's going to happen tonight from the Pepsi Center?
I just looked up. The Nuggets are 5-3 when they score 100 plus.
5-3.
But they're 1-4 when they allow the opponent to score over 100. I'm going to say it's going to be 104-97 Denver.
104-97. That sounds about right, to be honest, and I know Denver's not the best, to say the least, defensive team, but this Hornets team, I feel like it might be more up and down offensively on any given night, maybe even than a team like Denver. Defensively, you kind of know what you're going to get. A couple of weeks ago, they played a Milwaukee team, and it was a shootout, but, when you have Monte Ellis and Brandon Jennings, if those guys go off, then, there's really nothing you can do. So I could see a game in the hundreds, but on the other hand, I think this one might be a little more low scoring. I'm going to take Denver too. I'll go 95-89. So that's about a 5 or 6 point spread. I feel like that's a good margin of victory. But I like what Denver. Yeah, no.
I got to ask you before.
Sure.
Before we get out of here, so you said you were watching the Broncos game. You live in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you a Hornets fan and not a Nuggets fan?
Like most of the people, I shouldn't say like most of the people, but like a lot of the people that we've encountered here on this side and a lot of, Hornets websites, it was kind of a random thing when I was a kid. I know a lot of people who have random sports allegiances. I've been a lifelong Rockies fan. That was the one Denver team that, I've loved since a kid because of the whole Blake Street Bombers thing and everything. And, Broncos too. I root for the Broncos, but basketball, I think it had a lot to do with the fact that the Nuggets kind of sucked in the 90s, the kind of Dikembe years were in the early 90s when I was, I think, before my hardcore basketball rooting days. But so I think that had a little bit to do with it. But I loved the Hornets fans of the 90s with Glenn Rice, and they had Zoe there for a while, Muggsy Bogues, and then they went, of course, into the Baron Davis years with Jamal Mashburn and P.J. Brown. So it goes back to the Charlotte days, for this guy at least. But yeah, the Hornets.
It's understandable. I had a Hornets hat growing up.
Right? Hornets. Gotta love the team colors, if nothing else. But hopefully it's a good game tonight, man. Like I said, and hopefully this won't be the last time we talk. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on Denver as the season goes by. Won't root for them tonight, but we'll probably root for you guys here in the future. So
awesome.
Good luck, man. That's Nate Timmons again with Denver Stiffs joining us on the At the Hive podcast. Thanks, Nate, and we'll talk to you again here soon.
Thanks, man. I'll take my ugly beard and I'm out of here.
All right, take it easy, brother.
Later.
This has been the At the Hive podcast. I'm David Starcer. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Be sure to tune in and watch the Hornets tonight in Denver, 7 o'clock New Orleans time, 6 o'clock out here in the Mountain Time Zone. And we'll have more podcasts for you up here on At the Hive when we get to it. Have a good one, guys.